if we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look. The sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery, with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing crosses or stars of David, they add up to only a tiny fraction of the price that has been paid for our freedom.
You're listening to Radio Realty. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in Real Estate. We're broadcasting live today from the corner of West Hill and the Sterling Highway, the home of the Story team. All things possible and prosperous. Very special guest will be with me in just a moment. Her name is Laura Ogan. You probably know her as AK Tiny House Queen. That's right. We're going to talk to Laura. What is the tiny house movement? What's the smallest home you could live in? Maybe think about it like this. Could you live inside of your bedroom? Now, inside your bedroom, you're going to have a bathroom, you're going to have a kitchen, you're going to have a living room, you're going to have a dining room, you're going to have a guest room, you're going to have everything inside. Could you do it? And we're going to find out why Laura is doing this. Why has she become the Alaska Tiny House Queen? We'll find out in just a moment. You do not want to miss my conversation with Laura Ogan. First, you understand CNBC's reporting crude oil in Alaska, $44 a barrel. That's the lowest since 2009. All right, Alaska's dependence on strong oil prices begs this simple question. Are you prepared for higher property taxes, sales tax, income tax, or more? I want you to have an opportunity to go to AJ's Old Town Steakhouse for free. I want you to go down to Old Town Homer. You deserve a night out. Come on, a night you won't forget at AJ's in Old Town Homer. They got the best blue cheeseburger you're going to find in all of Alaska, the best grade A meat available in America at AJ's Old Town Steakhouse, and the seafood is fresh and local, very creative salads. You deserve AJ's right now. Here's your question, and you could go for free. If oil prices stay low and we need to generate more income through taxes, which would you rather? Which would you prefer? A state income tax or higher property taxes? I know they're not a direct corollary one to the other, but I'm asking if there's a methodology by which more money has to come into the coffers, would you rather it from your income or tied to higher property taxes? And if you say, well, not everybody pays property taxes, yeah, they do. If you rent, you pay property taxes through your rent. So income or property tax, text your name and answer right now, 299-7653, 299-7653, or go to my website and you can respond there on top of theworldradio.com. On top of theworldradio.com, which would you rather, income tax here in Alaska or more property taxes? Please help me welcome the Alaska Tiny House Queen, Laura Ogan. Laura, thanks for taking time out of your busy, tiny schedule to be here today.
Thank you, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is just fascinating to me. What you don't know, Laura, probably, is that I've been talking about on this show, we've been talking about tiny homes for a couple of years now, and I'm fascinated by it. So before I go any further, though, I need to know more about you. Tell me about Laura. Where do you live? What do you do? What's your story? Who are you?
Sure. Well, my name is Laura, as you said, and I'm just Alaska girl living her adventure. I grew up in the valley, as in Palmer area. I grew up on Lazy Mountain, so I'm used to just playing out in the woods and having a great time doing that. Currently, I live in Anchorage, and I'm actually building my tiny house in Palmer, so I'm back and forth a lot with building on the weekends and working and living here in Anchorage. For work, I work at the Department of Natural Resources. I'm an admin. And I've been doing that for a couple months now.
Oh, good for you. Excellent. Well, I mean, man, it's not as though you didn't have anything to do when you started this project. Tell me I'm curious, very curious, where will you actually have your tiny home? Will you keep it in Palmer? Will you move it into Anchorage?
Well, I've actually decided to move it to Anchorage. The reason why I'm building it out in Palmer is that my dad is actually the one who's doing most of the building. I help out as much as possible, so it's been a great father-daughter project. But I'm not quite ready to move out of Anchorage since I work here and I have a lot of my friends and most of my connections are more or less out here in Anchorage nowadays. So I'll be moving it to the south side. My family has some extra property, basically, that they'll let me put it on. So I'm really excited to be moving to that part of town.
Excellent. Now, one definition that you can find is that the tiny house movement is a social movement. And it's people that are saying, you know what, I don't want to be burdened with a mortgage. I don't want to be one of the 76% of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. I want to reduce the footprint, both social, ecological, economical. I want to reduce it all down to basically like a turtle, something I could carry on my back. What was the impetus, Laura, for you to get into the tiny house movement?
Great question. And, for me, it wasn't exactly me wanting to join a movement or just kind of this current craze that's going on. It certainly is a really great idea. So I obviously understand why people are doing it, but it's really something that was attainable for me. I had the resources to do it, and so I went for it. The biggest aspect for me was money. I had actually applied for a mortgage to look for a house here in Anchorage, but everything that I could find was mostly kind of in condominium, so just really close quarters next to people. You have to have certain parking spots, and a lot of that just wasn't very attractive to me. So I was looking into other areas of wanting to build a tiny house, and or other areas of wanting to look at a house or build a house. And my dad suggested you should build a tiny house. And basically, I thought it was the worst idea ever. I said, only crazy people do that. I've seen that online. No, I can't do it. But I looked more into it, and I realized what a great idea it really was. And again, a big aspect was because of the money. If I were to get a mortgage and live in Anchorage, I would be maxing out my budget every month. I would still have to have roommates. Not that I hate my roommates. I love them. I've had some amazing people I've got to live with, but when you get older, you kind of want your own space and your own thing. And so I wasn't really looking forward to being house broke, essentially, and having to live with other people. So that's kind of how the tiny house thing got brought to me. And it was a suggestion, and I kind of swung it off at first, but I realized it was actually a pretty good idea.
Now, Again, the literature, it varies, and anything can be tiny, but in terms of square footage, you typically think between 100 and 400 square feet. So what will your home be when you're complete? How many square feet?
When it's complete, it'll be about 275 livable square feet. So that's excluding the wall. And so the 275 will be the whole area that I have to live in.
Did you and your dad draw the plans together, or did you find a plan you really liked online? You said, yeah, build that. Let's build that.
It was a little bit of both. I did a lot of research online, kind of seeing what I liked about different things, what I didn't like about it. And a big thing was I didn't like about how tiny they essentially were at first. And then I ran into what's called the big tiny houses. And that's what I'm building, since it's over 150 square feet. Most of them I've seen are about 175 square feet. So thankfully mine is a little bit larger. And the reason I went with that is because it seems so much more attainable to actually live in that space for a longer period of time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it was just asking myself what's important to me, and what kind of space I wanted it. So I created it and designed it around that after all the research that I looked with the current tiny houses.
Interesting. So we're talking about jumbo shrimp. I like that. That's an interesting dichotomy. I'm Chris Story. I'm joined by Laura Ogan. She is the AK Tiny House Queen, and we're going to find out how she got that label, where you can follow her on social media and otherwise, and where in the process she's at. You just heard her mention that she went through the process to find out what's important. Let's find out what's important when we come back here on Radio Realty. All right, you still have an opportunity to enter the AJ's Old Town Steakhouse Real Trivia question. I want to send you to dinner for free. Here's how you play the game. If oil prices in Alaska stay low and we need to garner some more money through taxation, I know I'm cringing just like you, but if that's the case and we need to do it, would you rather it be through property taxes or an income tax? I heard the collective sigh. 299-7653. 299-7653. I'm on the line with Laura Ogan. We're talking about AK Tiny House Queen. You may know her from social media. That's where I found Laura, was on Facebook, AK Tiny House Queen. So Dad talks her into building a tiny house. She's building it in the valley, but going to be moving it into Anchorage. Laura, as I understand it, looking at the photographs and watching some of the videos on your Facebook page, you're actually building this on a trailer, are you not?
I am building it on a trailer, yes.
Okay. Dave and I were just talking during the break there. What rules, regulations, zoning, what have you had to do as far as putting this on your family's property in Anchorage? Or is any red tape you've had to cut through?
I haven't quite figured that out yet. The beautiful thing is that it's on a trailer, so if I do run into any problems, I can just pick up and move it.
I like the idea of beg forgiveness rather than ask permission. I'm with you. You are a Valley girl. I like that.
I am a Valley girl, true at heart.
That's awesome.
Definitely one approach, but from my understanding, it's mostly considered a shed since it is such a small size, and it's not on a permanent foundation, so technically it's not a house.
Okay.
From other zoning issues, for like building permits and things like that, usually it has to be more than 500 square feet.
Oh, good point. And you're at, just for anybody that missed it, 275 livable square feet, building it on a trailer. You can up and move when you want to and where you want to. Question, what are you doing for utilities? Do you plan to have a working bathroom and kitchen and all that with shower and presumably a commode and everything and electricity? Kind of what are you doing for utilities?
Yes. Well, this is what I think is the beautiful part about having a woman design a tiny house. You have all the things you need.
Yeah, very good.
So for amenities, a very big important thing for me was my kitchen. I really love cooking, and I certainly didn't want to have something tiny or too small that wouldn't suit the needs that I have. So actually in my design, I have a full range. I even have a dishwasher in there, which was surprising that I could fit that in there. A double sink, and I have a normal size refrigerator. It's 30 inches wide, so I can have enough food for storage and even have a few friends over and not worry about having a smaller refrigerator. So all my appliances are the normal size. This is a small L-shaped kitchen. For the bathroom, I will have everything that I need. I'll have a washer and dryer.
Wow.
Yep, I'll even have that stackable. Have my sink, have my commode, and this is one thing I've had a really hard time trying to figure out. I may even be able to fit a bathtub in there, which I'm super excited about.
Man, this is almost like I'm absolutely flabbergasted that this is in 275 feet, all on one level, right? You don't have a second level?
Yes, all on one level.
Wow.
And the other beautiful part about that is I don't have kind of one of those cramped lofts. Many designs I saw, the loft was very small, not a lot of headspace. So that was something that I wasn't interested in. And I also do not want a Murphy bed. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot more challenging on trying to figure out where I'd sleep. But the beautiful thing is I figured out kind of a bay window area that's raised, and it sticks about 2 feet out from the trailer that I have, and it's about 3 feet off the ground on the interior. So there's plenty of storage underneath it, but basically I have what I call my little bed nook, and just a permanent spot for my full-size mattress, and it'll fit great. And the beautiful thing is when you climb up into it, a 6'2" person could stand there without even hitting their head. So There's lots of headspace. It's very comfortable and open, and that's one of the nice things about the design.
I think you've answered my next question. By the way, you're listening to Radio Realty. I'm on with Laura Ogan, AK Tiny House Queen. Laura, I think you've answered my next question. You had led us into that last break saying you had to really think about what is important to you. And you've talked about kitchen, you've talked about even the luxurious items that I didn't understand tiny home living could afford, like a dishwasher, washer, dryer, and maybe even to go so far as have the bathtub. What did you end up having to give up then? Because I'm not hearing it. I don't hear you giving anything up.
That's a very good question. Storage is obviously very important. And so I have had to give up a little bit of storage area, which means I may need to even downsize more. But essentially, everything that I've already downsized is what I use every day. And that's the beautiful thing about having a tiny house is you have what you need and you use it. And then when you're out, you get more. But one thing I did have to sacrifice a lot is a larger water tank. Since it's Alaska, we are designing the water tank to be in the interior of the house. So I probably will only have a 100-gallon holding tank versus a couple hundred that I originally wanted. And that's a big thing that I had to give up. And certainly the design, too. It never goes the way that you think it will. It always changes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now I saw on one of the videos where you introduced your father for like a split second. I just saw him like flash by. Obviously, he's in the background, but doing a lot of work with you. And you were talking about a 7-foot window. Did I read that correctly or hear you correctly? You have a 7-foot pane, 7-foot wide window going in this building?
That's correct. It's essentially the whole house is 12 by 28. That does include the bay window overhang, and the bathroom also overhangs 2 feet off the back of the trailer as well. And the sides hang out 1 foot off the trailer. So there's a lot of overhangs on the trailer, and that's one of the reasons why I bought such a great trailer. It's a triaxle, 21,000 pounds, flatbed, so you don't have to build around the wheel wells. So it made the design a lot easier keeping without having to build around it.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. But with the windows, I got a really great deal from a friend who is renovating, and essentially I got those windows in my kitchen cabinets for about $300, which was awesome.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's 28 feet long, so I had plenty of space for a lot of light, and that was another design feature that I wanted, to have a lot of natural light. It also has high ceilings. One side of it's a shed style roof. So one side is 8 feet, the other side is 11 foot. And without having a loft, I keep all that head space. So it feels pretty spacious in there.
I bet. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. So almost like a salt box, if you will. And I thought, man, I bet you anything, if you don't go with a loft, it will feel larger than whatever the square footage actually is. And we're so pressed for time. I've got a million more questions, but let me just ask you a couple rapid fire cost. Do you have a ballpark idea of where you're going to end up being? And are you comfortable to share it? If not, you can just kind of give us just a ballpark. I mean, you know what your budget is?
I do. I have a very strict budget, and I've done really well so far. A lot of it's just calling in favors from friends. I have the best friends ever. They've helped me out so much. So I've saved a lot on labor costs. But basically my budget is $33,000, and a big reason that I say so to me is because essentially it's me and my dad who are building it.
When's your completion date?
I'm really hoping by the end of this month, but building never goes the way that you want it to.
Right,
or
even
as
tiny
fast
building.
as you want it to.
Yeah, even tiny building. What has been the reaction? You mentioned your friends. You got great friends and roommates you're going to be saying goodbye to. When you tell people that you are, in fact, the AK Tiny House Queen, do they look at you like you're crazy, or what's been the reaction?
It's been definitely a mixed reaction. Certainly lots of people, especially in the city, they don't quite understand the concept of having a tiny house and living small. But it seems like rural Alaska or anywhere else, they definitely get it, and I really love that. So I get a lot of positive feedback. People think it's very inspiring and very cool. And of course, like I said, my friends are just a huge support. But yeah, mostly I get really great just reactions and results from it. They tease me about the queen part, and sometimes I ask myself the same thing, but
I think it's
no
clever.
drama here.
I think it's clever. I mean, here's the thing. If you had just started posting to your own Facebook page about how you're building this house, I never would have found you, and you wouldn't be talking to all of us all around South Central Alaska. So I'm thrilled that you labeled your Facebook page the AK Tiny House Queen. I'd encourage everybody to go look at it and just live vicariously through Laura Ogan. And Laura, I wish you all the best. I would love to talk to you again after you've moved in. Maybe we could even do another conversation with you in the tiny home. I just think that would be just terrific. I've just loved the project and the idea, and I thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you. I love that.
Is that the best way to reach you, by the way, or look at your project as the AK Tiny House Queen on Facebook?
Yes, right now it's a profile, but if I get enough interest, I'll make it into a page.
Okay. All right. There it is. That's Laura Ogan. Thank you, Laura. Have a great day in your tiny home. Don't you go anywhere. We have a tiny portion of our show left here on Radio Realty. We'll be right back.